Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I am so delighted to be here with you today. And before anything, I have an exciting announcement. So, the name of the podcast has shifted. And so, the new name is the Sovereign Helper Podcast. Lead, create impact, and serve without burnout. And the reason for this change is that I realize that it better captures the space that this is, what this space is about. And it really captures what my coaching is about, which is about helping you, the helpers, whether you're a therapist or whatever field you're in, but you're here on a sacred mission to share your gifts to create impact. And I'm here to show you how to do that from a place of overflow without depletion or overwhelm or burnout. And so that's the new name. So I'm excited to share that with you. And today's episode is episode 146, which is called Healing the Shame. Wait, what is it? Healing the Shame of Not Being Further Ahead. I always forget the titles. Healing the Shame of Not Being Further Ahead. And so this is really important. And it's something that I coach a lot on. A lot of my sessions with clients, that there could be some flavor of that. It's not the only thing we talk about. Obviously, there's so many other things, but that can be a recurrent theme. And it's certainly something that I have felt. This shame, this self, even maybe sometimes embarrassment, or however it comes up for you, of like, oh, I should be further ahead. Even if you don't consciously think that, those words, it can show up, for example, I should have more clients by now. I should have written that book already. I shouldn't be triggered by those things anymore. I should have a stronger body, a fitter body. It can show up in multiple ways. And for some people, for some of you, or even in some cycles, that might be a really loud, right? It could be really loud. Maybe something triggers. Maybe you start to compare yourself with somebody else. And then that voice gets really loud. Oh, look at that person. They already did that. I should be doing that. And for other times, it can be, again, like really subtle, like in the background, like a hum that you might not even be aware of. But what does that create? That thought, that feeling of shame or disappointment in yourself or embarrassment can create two things. One, it can create hustle, right? Like this sense of urgency that you have to catch up, you have to prove yourself. Like this clock is ticking and you're running out of time. I have to prove myself, I have to rush, I have to do something. The other way it can show up, it's almost like the other extreme, where it's like paralysis, stagnation, because there's this thought of like, I'm never going to catch up. So, like, why bother? I should just give up, right? Now, those are extremes. It could be any sort of degree of that. So, what I wanted to talk about today, how do we heal that? So, this is the thing. When I coach my clients, right, I take them through a 6-pillar process, right? It's not a linear process. Every client comes in with different needs, right? So I customize it for them. So there's a lot of tools. In this podcast episode, I want to really anchor it to the foundational tool of this. It's more of the why, the understanding behind this. So this is it. Okay, are you ready? This is really important, and it's very simple. So it's very easy for your intellect to dismiss it. But first and foremost is for you to understand that those voices in your head of self-berating, if I should be further ahead, I should have figured this out already, what's wrong with me, all of that, doesn't come from your soul. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Really listen. Those voices that compare you to others, that are saying you should be further ahead, you should have figured it out already, this shouldn't be this hard for you anymore with all of your experience. Those voices do not come from your soul. And when I say your soul, I mean your true essence, your higher self, that divine being inside of you, right? We are souls having a human experience. And when you have a divine assignment to be a helper, the one of the core teachings of my coaching is that The only way to do that, to create the impact that you're here to create, is to do that by following your soul's guidance. Not the egos, not the intellect. There's a place for the ego and intellect. We have an ego and we have an intellect. So I'm not saying that you go into battle with them or that you ignore them completely. That would be impossible. As long as we have a human body, we will have an ego structure, or you can call it an ego consciousness, and we will have an intellect. But when you're committed to fulfilling your divine assignment, you realize, well, but that's not my boss. My boss is my soul. My leader is my soul. That's who is meant to lead me. And so it's very important for you to recognize then when you're hearing those voices of I should be further ahead, it's not coming from your soul. It's not the boss. It's not who you have committed to follow. So that's the first thing, is to truly recognize, oh my gosh, this isn't coming from my soul. Because the ego structure or the ego consciousness is programmed. It's designed to keep you separate from your soul, separate from the divine. It believes it is separate. It believes we are all separate, and there's some people that are better than others, and it believes in linear time, and it believes that everything you're looking for is outside of yourself. It's programmed that way. So it's not like it's evil or bad. That's just the design, right? It was programmed that way. It's following its design. And we have an ego, right? We have that program inside of us. So it is this very courageous, I would say revolutionary, superhuman act to decide, I hear those voices, they really sound convincing, but they're not my soul. And so for you, that might be the most important essential step. To recognize when it's happening. And that might be, and I want to say this, most of my clients, if you're watching this, I know you're so ahead of the journey, right? You've been on this path for years. You have done so much self-reflection, so much therapy, so much healing, so much coaching. You know yourself. You're not a newbie at this. And so probably those voices are more subtle. They're not, so for example, I can look back on my life when I was a teenager or young adult, and those voices were loud and harsh and cruel, right? It really led, when I say those voices, I mean the voices inside that were like, you should be better, you should be different, you should, be further ahead. They were very destructive and toxic and led to a lot of destructive and toxic behavior, right? A lot of self-hatred, body dysmorphia, all sorts of things. I've come a long way. And I'm sure you have as well. But what's interesting is that sometimes it's even harder during, at this point to notice those subtle voices. They might not be, so for example, for me, it usually, unless something really major happens that could trigger some of that old intensity, usually it's just this little like, why am I still struggling with that? Why does this still bother me? I should be, and it's that I should be further ahead, but it doesn't sound cruel and mean. It sounds like a fact. This is the thing, right? It sounds like truth, the truth of the universe. I should be further ahead. And so again, for you, the first step might be just recognizing that. Oh my gosh, there's that voice again. Because this is the truth. Your soul is a frequency. And when I say your soul, I mean all of the souls, everybody's soul, right, is eternally connected to the divine. It exists outside of linear time. Its frequency is unconditional love, infinite wisdom. It's this frequency that would never, ever, ever resort to criticism, even in the most subtle of ways. And so it's incredibly essential that all of us become so attuned to those subtle, what I call in my coaching, your soul-like parts. And what I mean by that is, so another aspect of my coaching, I do, internal family systems, model of psychotherapy, parts work for short, right? Really helping my clients to find those parts inside of them that might be getting in the way of them really creating impact. And they're getting in the way from a place of love and protection, right? So they're not bad parts. They're just often wounded parts or programmed parts, right? They have a certain programming. And so these parts, right? When we talk about releasing the shame, releasing the thought that you should be further ahead, right? One way you can think about it is that it's a part that's really critical inside of you that is saying that I should be further ahead, I should be further along. And as I was saying before, it can be really subtle. So for you to like remember that even when it's subtle, even when that voice, this is where I was going to, is saying, is being very rational, right? Like it can sound very wise because our parts can be very wise. Well, I should be further ahead. If I was more organized, I could probably do that. Da, 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 da. And it's not that these parts have no wisdom to share, but what's important in that moment is to recognize, but that's not the voice of my soul. Because again, the frequency of your soul is so refined. And this is the other thing. Your soul never believes you're behind. Okay, your soul knows that even if, how do I say this? Even if we just look at time and we just look at your life and somebody would factually say you are behind, right? Like I could give an example. When I went to college, if you've been following me for a while, you know that at 19 I became pregnant. I was a teenage mom, but I was committed to go to college. And when I started college, it definitely felt like factually, it felt like I was behind. Why? Because I had a child and then I had other children and then I couldn't take as many classes as my peers could. It took me 8 years to finish my bachelor's in education. So factually, I could really prove or make a case for, but I am behind. Look, she graduated in 4 years. It took me 8 years, right? So but in that moment, now even though at that point I was already a very spiritual person and I had this deep longing to help others, I didn't have all the tools that I have now, right? But even now, looking back, I can hear that there was a voice inside of me that just kept saying, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, don't give up, don't give up. Now, if I had the understanding and the openness that I have now, that I've cleared so much trauma from my body that I can hear my soul so much more clearly, I could have heard my soul say, you are not behind. Yes, maybe in the outside world, you could say, well, I'm behind because of this and because of that. But my soul's like, you are not behind. You're exactly on time. Why was that? Because I was learning, becoming a mom, being a mom, staying committed to my goal of graduating college, all of the things, even having all those children that young, all of that was actually part of my divine mission. It was actually all part of the plan. So I wasn't behind. And so when I say your soul never tells you you're behind, it's not because your soul's so nice, your soul wouldn't want to make you feel bad. So it's never going to say you're behind, even though you are. No, it's like your soul knows you're not actually behind. And even if you were quote unquote behind, there are divine solutions, divine realignments that your soul can do in an instant when you align with it. So it's really important. So when I say healing the shame of not being further ahead, really the way you heal that is to recognize it's a lie. I'm actually not behind. I actually shouldn't be further ahead. And this is the other thing. Your soul also knows, and this is where the ego is very clever and strategic. And again, I don't want you to be scared of the ego or be like, oh, the ego's so evil. No, the ego is doing what it's designed to do, which is to keep you separate from your soul, to keep you trapped in this illusion of separation, to keep you thinking that you have to improve and fix yourself and never feel like you've arrived. That's what the ego is designed to do. So the ego doesn't want you to feel like you're not behind. Because think about how clever that is if you always are feeling you're behind. And I know you've probably had this experience where you have felt, I'm behind, I'm behind, I'm behind. And you finally catch up, and literally the relief lasts like a minute, maybe a day. And then you feel like you're behind again. Because again, it's an illusion. And the other reason is that once you accept and you recognize that does not come from my soul actually is telling me you are exactly where you need to be. And this is the other thing your soul is saying. The present moment is where your power exists. In this present moment, you have all of the wisdom you require, you have all of the resourcefulness, you have all of the experience in this present moment. And so when we let go of, I should be further ahead, and you fully accept that, wait, I'm exactly where I need to be. My ego might be screaming and saying, no, you're not, no, you're not. But that's okay. That's what it does. My soul is reminding me I'm exactly where I need to be. And when you do that and you open up to that, then suddenly the divine ideas, the creative ideas, the synchronicity starts to appear. The people you're supposed to meet appear. Everything gets realigned to that. And so again, that's one reason the ego is so scared of us accepting that, because it recognizes, wait, if she accepts that, if she actually believes that she's not behind, that's the death of the ego, right? The ego's like, ah. And the truth is, as long as we have a human body, the ego will not die. It will be with us, but we can coexist with our ego structure and not let it be the leader, not let it be the boss. Just understand, like, okay, that's my ego structure. I get it. But I'm following my soul's guidance. And so to ground it in a little bit of a practice, let's do it this way. I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure, yes, I covered what I wanted to cover. So I'm going to ground it into 3 steps, okay? The first step is for you to become aware. Notice the subtle ways that the I'm behind or I should be further ahead comes in. You know, maybe you're trying to meditate and there's this little like, but I should be further ahead. So you feel like, oh, I'm wasting time meditating. Or maybe you're, you teach a class and actually goes great. But you're thinking, oh, but I should be further ahead. I should have had more people in the class. Right? Some version where that shows up. Just notice it. And it's going to really require presence to notice it. So that's the first step, awareness. And with that awareness, just remind yourself, this isn't my soul speaking. My soul never gives me that message, no matter how subtle and how wise it might sound or how much it might sound like it's a fact. That is not my soul. So that's step 1. And maybe for you right now, step 1 is it. That's all you're doing. It's like, okay, I'm just going to notice all the ways and keep coming back like this isn't my soul speaking. Right, so that's step 1. Step 2 is, because this is the thing, the reason this can be challenging is when you have those voices, I should be further ahead, this shouldn't bother me anymore, I should be more healthy, I should, for example, for me, this came up when I've shared I've been healing from, I've been processing a really challenging experience that happened in September, and, been processing it through journaling, through using all my tools, to working with my parts, to of course working with my coach, all of the things. And I'm in a much better place. And yet when I met with my coach this week, I was still like, I am in a better place. I can totally tell I'm in a better place, but I still sometimes get like really upset about it still. Sometimes I still feel bad about it. Sometimes and she was like, she pointed out, which is what a coach does, right? She was like, Lisa, it sounds like you think you should be further ahead with it. It wasn't that exact word, but something like that. And she was like, no, you're just in the messy middle. That's part of it. And I was like, oh my God, like just her saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I shouldn't be further ahead. It's not that I'm slow. It's not that I'm doing something wrong. It's not that if I was a better, smarter person, if I was a more powerful person, if I was whatever, then I'd be over it. It's like, no, this is just the process. And that just brought me back into alignment. And I recognized like, wow, that was so subtle that it was this kind of like, oh, why do I still feel bad? I don't want to feel bad about it. I want to be over it. I want to just be like, this is my comeback. Yay. But it was like, no, I still can feel bad. And what has happened since that moment with my coach is that every time it happens, I am definitely in a stronger, more aligned place. But when it happens, when something triggers it and I feel bad, I don't anymore go to like, oh, why is this still bothering me? I'm just like, oh no, this is just the messy middle. This is just how it is. And what does that do to me is that it allows my soul's compassion, my soul's light and unconditional love to fill me. And then it passes and it becomes wisdom. Right? So that's just one example. Right? So what I was getting ready to say with step 2 is you're just breathing and allowing the emotions that come up. So step 1 is you become aware when you're berating yourself and recognize this is not my soul. Step 2 is what if it brings up big feelings like shame, embarrassment, disappointment. Don't fight them. Because often what happens, we feel those feelings and then we're like, okay, wait, we don't want to feel it. So like, let me get busy, let me do something, let me go into hustle so I can catch up. But that's actually just keeps the whole cycle going. Instead of you're like, okay, you're like, I can handle feeling this emotion in my body. And I know the emotion of shame can be brutal, but your soul is way bigger than the emotion of shame. That's something I remind myself of when I'm in the grips of it, because I've shared before how shame was something that was really used as I don't know, form of control for me in my youth, like shame, like kind of creating, maybe having me feel ashamed. And so I'm in this process of releasing the fear of feeling shame. It's not that I'm like, oh, I want to feel shame all along or whatever, but it's like, and how do I do that is knowing like, wait a minute, I don't like how this feels, but first of all, I am safe. Shame's actually not even true. It's this emotion that is created by the ego structure. And my soul's unconditional love is way more powerful than shame. And so just like breathing, you're not fighting it, and ask your soul to increase your capacity, to hold your soul's light. So even when the shame comes out, it might just be like a little blip. Eventually it'll be like this little blip. Oh, there's that shame frequency, but I'm so much more in my soul's frequency. But again, this requires practice, right? This is part of the, process that I teach my clients of like emotional power and resilience is like and part of that is increasing your capacity to hold your soul's light. Right? So, to simplify it for you, it might just be like, okay, I think Brené Brown in one of her books talks about shame, and I don't remember which book, but she says when you notice it, just literally say out loud, shame, just so you identify it, like there it is. And almost like naming it, it starts to lose its power. And then you can add like, okay, that's not coming from my soul. I'm going to breathe. And maybe at first you just let it be there for an instant. Like, oh, okay, there it is. But I do feel part of being helpers, part of being fulfilling your divine assignment, whatever the details of your work is that we are become this example of what's possible, of not letting these emotions control what we do or not do. Okay, so then step 3 is you're going to ask your soul, what is your message? So we know what the ego's message was. So for me, the ego's message was, oh, this shouldn't bother you anymore. That was my ego's message. So of course I had the help of my coach in that moment, but it was like, oh, so now when it happens, I recognize, oh, that's not my soul saying that. And then I can breathe and notice any part that feels ashamed or scared or like judgmental towards myself, that I shouldn't be bothered by this anymore. I can just notice it. But now I know it's not true. And then I can ask my soul, what is your message? And for you, it'll be specific to you, but it'll all be around the gist being you're exactly where you need to be. I love you so much. This present moment is where your power is. come back to this present moment, right? And your soul will speak to you. In my book, Answering Your Inner Calling, I talk about learning the language of your soul, right? So your soul will speak to you in different ways. Maybe it won't be words. Maybe it'll just be a feeling. Maybe it'll be energy. Maybe it'll be more poetic. It'll be up to you. But that's how you'll know when it's your soul speaking. And that's, one thing I'm often asked when I start working with clients, like, how do I know if it's my soul or my ego? How do I know I'm not just making it up? And again, you start to learn the language of your soul, but you also know because your soul is unconditionally loving. It's not coddling. It's not like there, don't feel bad, go distract yourself. No, that's not your soul, right? That's not. Your soul is like, you've got this. I love you so much. My love is more powerful than any emotions that come up. But I know that it's hard. Let's have compassion, right? Something along those lines. All right, so step 1, awareness. Step 2, breathe and allow. Step 3, ask your soul for its message. So I want to, again, remind you, if nothing else, when you think of this podcast episode, healing the shame of not being further ahead, just remember, okay, the number one way I do that is to recognize that it's a lie. It's not true that I should be further ahead. Even if my ego is so convincing, and I already gave you that example, right, of when I was in college, like I had all the reasons to believe I was behind. But look what's so interesting now. Now my kids are all young adults. My daughter Lisa got married a week ago, like 10 days ago. My other daughter got married like 3 years ago. They all have their lives. They're all young adults. I'm so proud of them. And all of those times where I felt behind, what's so interesting now is so many people my age, maybe they're not saying you're so ahead, but the message is kind of like that, like, oh, you're in such a different part of your journey now. Like all your kids are young adults, they're all self-sufficient, they're all, so in some way it hit me one day and I was like, I'm further ahead, right? Like, not that it's a competition, but I was like, wow, like, so I don't know if that will help you, but I'm going to end there. No, I'm not, because I want to say 2 things. One, if you want help with this, right, or if you're looking for help and want to explore help and how to step into your sovereign service, right, of being the helper that you came here to be, but you recognize that there's obstacles or there's might be some ways that parts of you are sabotaging you, or you're just literally confused. I would love to talk. I offer free sovereignty consults every month. I just opened several slots for November. And so I would love to connect with you. There's nothing to prepare, just show up as you are. I'll put the link in the comments. Also, I'm so excited to announce the masterclass for November. It's called From Shedding to Shining. I am so excited, right? Because we've been talking a lot about shedding the old identities, shedding the old beliefs, shedding the trauma, shedding the blocks, the limiting self-concepts. And now we're starting to step into the process of shining, right? From shedding to shining. And I told you, Greg, my husband Greg always makes fun of me because, not makes fun of me, but that sounded wrong, but he always teases me. I'm terrible at remembering the titles, but it's From Shedding to Shining, Embodying Your Sovereign Helper Self, something like that. And this is going to be about, well, first of all, that process, shedding to shining, right? We're still in the year of the snake, so there's still going to be shedding. But there's also the new skin that's coming forward. How do we nurture ourselves? What are the habits, the rituals, the behaviors that will help you nurture that skin, that shiny skin, as it's coming forward? All right, sending you so much love. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I will see you next week. Actually, I will see you, I'm still doing the 30 videos on YouTube. Today is day 23, I believe. So you can see me then. And yeah, I'll put the link for the masterclass. It is free. I don't know if I said this. It's a free masterclass. You get the replay for 7 days. I would love for you to join me. Bye, everyone. See ya.